RPG time, The Legend of Wright. I love unique games. Something that wants to do everything differently and keep it entertaining, and it's very hard to find. The last game that I played like that was the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Then there was There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension before that. Both of these games took conventional gameplay and changed them in a way you might not expect. This one did that as well. And while the story might be a little bit too simple, overall it was a lot of fun. The whole concept behind the game is that you're being told a story by a kid who has made the world using a pen and paper. He also uses crafts to turn ordinary objects into something different. For example, your sword is a dull pencil, and you can go to a blacksmith to sharpen it, and the blacksmith will just use a pencil sharpener to fix it. Truthfully, if this kid did all this work in the real world, he would be doing terribly in school, because the intricate ways of the way he makes these environments must take hours. However, everything you're seeing is really something that could have been done with enough patience and time. I mean, sure, you couldn't have moving characters on paper, but that could all be in your imagination based on the world he's showing you. I love the way everything was presented. It was extremely impressive, but never over the top. It always felt like something that a kid might come up with. When I first saw the trailer for this, I assumed it would be an RPG where you would level up and fight enemies in a papercraft world. I thought I would have to grind through battles of creatures in order to get stronger. And while you do have to fight monsters, it's never a grind. This is more of a point-and-click adventure game than a traditional RPG. There are small moments where you're going to need to get a few items to progress, but these moments usually only take a couple minutes. The story has so many twists and turns you're never going to know what happens until you move on to the next page, as a child's imagination will always try to keep it entertaining, even if it doesn't make sense logically. Now, some sections do drag on, even if they're fun at first. There's a section where you're maneuvering through a maze, and while they do break it into sections, it does go on too long. For a game that has changes in the gameplay quite often, it was odd that the gameplay stayed basically the same for about 20 to 30 minutes. Now, this is not a hard game. In fact, it's more about figuring out the point-and-click puzzles than fighting. You're going to rarely be stuck on a puzzle. And the story itself is pretty simple as well, so don't expect a grand one, as it's just the hero of the story rescuing a princess. There are boss fights quite often, and they usually break down to you finding the weak spot quickly before you die. If you do die, they'll offer you a hint. The game will track your deaths, but it will put you right back where you left off. Each chapter takes about an hour, and you can beat this in about 6 to 8 hours, depending on if you do the side quests or look for the mini ninjas on every main page. On that one, I found all of them except one, and I was really annoyed I couldn't find them all. It will show you at the bottom if you haven't found it or if there is one or not. Some of them are hidden really well. There is also a tutorial chapter, which is not required, but it's not just a throwaway thing, and it actually helps you get ready for the tone of the title as well as some of the gameplay to come. Plus, you get a special item and badge if you complete it. While the touchscreen can be useful while you're trying to click on things, there were too many times where you're looking at something very small or interacting with very small environments. So much so, I think it takes away from the enjoyment of the adventure to play it in handheld mode. My biggest issue with this is the price, which I usually get into in the end of this review in the wrap-up. It's a very impressive title with a lot of clever moments that you're going to enjoy. However, for $30, it's going to turn off quite a few people, not knowing if it's going to be worth it. Spoiler for the end, but yes, it is. But it could have justified its price tag more. The biggest thing it could have added, which would have made it worth it, is full voice acting. It's just one person telling the story. And I think it would have been great to hear the storyteller tell the story in their own voice. It would have made it more emotional and humorous by having this kid try to come up with different voices for all the characters. I would always find it more entertaining when they use voices instead of making us read it. And I hope that if they ever make a sequel, they'll remedy this. RPG time, The Legend of Wright was very impressive. It does a great job of making it look like a game that a person put together on a pen, notebook, school supplies, and a desk. It's very creative and you're going to enjoy your time with it. Now, like I mentioned before, the price is a problem, but I'm still going to recommend it, even at $30. If this even looks slightly interesting to you, please buy it. You will not regret it. Sure, it's a bit short for a $30 game, but it's so unique you're going to enjoy your time with it, even without voice acting. So you should buy it now.